Hey guys, it's Celine again with the Tarocchi Delle Stelle tarot deck. So I really hated the video quality on my previous video about this deck, the sort of a first impressions video that I did. And so I decided to do like a proper walkthrough if I can, where I can show you the images as they really are, so without the camera going for my face the whole time. It took me a minute to realize this is the frontispiece card here, one of the two. There's this one as well. If you want to read what it says there, you can pause this and maybe decipher it. It is in Italian. Everything in this deck, in the booklet as well, is in Italian. So this is all really the southern part of Europe that we're talking about and investigating here. And for me, that makes it really, worth going for here, because I just feel really connected. The landscapes, the colors, the language, maybe that is why this is such a deal for me. I used to, back in the day, I have moved house. If you have followed me for any length of time, you will have heard me say this before. I've moved house as a kid way too many times, like 20 times or so in as many years, which meant 3 times in a row in 1 year, in a couple of cases. It was mad, okay? But part of the experience of that as a toddler, as a 3, 4, 5-year-old, was living in Switzerland, actually. Still one of my favorite countries. It's a bit too expensive to actually live in or to visit for any length of time, but I love the mountains, and there's a couple of other things about Switzerland that I really care very deeply about. This full card here might actually, to me, it's just Switzerland. The way it actually feels to be in the mountains there. And there's a huge contrast in Switzerland between the sort of hillier and urban areas and then the mountainous backlands, So it's a very small country if you think of it in mileage, but it has a lot of depth to it. So as I lived there as a small child, just learning to walk and talk a bit, and eventually, I suppose, even learning to read, I was surrounded by, we were living in Geneva at the time, and I was surrounded by this, to me, very interesting cocktail of languages. Everything on this card, actually, no, 3 of the 5 languages on this card, Italian, French, and German. Plus that my parents actually spoke Dutch at home, I suppose. But this created some sort of a fizz in my brain, I suppose, and I really enjoyed that. Plus that we had very often the beautiful views, on the mountains on the other side of the Lake of Geneva, that I saw that every day, for a year or 2 or so that I actually lived there. So there's that connection. There's the languages, the colors, the atmosphere, the general, gold and blue and orange kind of a thing going on here. The color palette, that is just very, very much my kind of a atmosphere, I suppose, which is why I like this so much. I just discovered, which I was going to say here, this over here, if you spell that in the other direction, it just says Tavaglione, who is the designer of this deck. There, his name is in, in the normal direction. So there's that. So I was just lengthily explaining why I like this deck so much. I'll put these to the side now and just go through these cards. The other reason why I have found this to be more satisfying and more interesting than I expected, actually, and which I always also am hoping sort of to convey to you as you watch this, is that it is a different system in a lot of its parts, where it isn't Golden Dawn based. So it sort of diverges from the Rider-Waite basis, if you like, the system of the decans and the planetary associations and all that stuff is really different. And maybe you have already spotted this, I took out my Gran Tarot Esoterico as well, which is like such a different aesthetic compared to this deck here, that you would wonder why I would hurt your eyes like this. I certainly feel that way. This is a deck I have also come to be rather fond of, as far as I am going with this so far. But the reason I brought this out is that there's quite a bit of the parts of this system that the Tarot Esoterico is working with, that is the same system as this one. And the best information I have found so far on why these systems are different and how that works, really, what the big idea is with the different systems compared to the Golden Dawn, is from 22 Teachings, Tarot YouTube channel that I will link in the description. I found a video about this deck, actually, that details a lot of the origin of that system. Okay, the system that's also in a large part in here, not all the way. Tavaglione has done something else with it, with the system that this one actually uses, and this Esoterico deck actually uses the system, I think, more or less as is, where, for example, and that's why I brought out these couple of cards just to show you, just one example of how they're connected, really, is that the Cups cards, here we have a Knight of Cups and a Three of Cups, okay? That is actually what we would consider to be an air sign now. So the element of the Cups suit is air in this whole thing here, this whole part of the world. It is not the Cups equals water. One example of how this is different. And then I have brought out these three majors cards, the Wheel of Fortune, the Justice, and the Old Man, the Hermit. And they are astrologically linked through the Hebrew letters, because that is the secret to the whole change in everything here. Respectively, the Chariot to Gemini, the Justice card to Cancer, and the Hermit card to Leo. So just as an example, most of the majors in both these decks, in the Esoterico and in the Delle Stelle Tarot, okay, most of the majors have the same planetary or zodiacal associations, because they connect to them through the Hebrew letters. The Hebrew letters are the origin. And of course, the Golden Dawn also uses Hebrew letters. And just to drive the comparison a little further, I brought out this one as well, the Tarot Cabalistico, which I have used mainly and weirdly, maybe perhaps, to get to know the Golden Dawn system. So it's a Spanish deck, similar, from Fournier, just like the Esoterico right there. Okay, they actually look a bit similar, and it's kind of a typical tight, packed sort of a I don't know, structured and kind of old-fashioned, if you like, if not in a negative way at all. Vintagey kind of packaging, tuck boxes, and very simple, really. This one does not follow this system. So the other system, so to speak, the Southern European system that I believe is older than what the Golden Dawn did. So this is this I found to be really helpful, because it's Marseille cards and it has trees of life and all that. But it basically gives you. So if I look up, give me a second here. Yes, if I look up the 3 majors cards here that I have picked out for the system, okay, that the Stelle deck actually follows this system, okay, then here for my Chariot, I have a Cancer sign and not a Gemini. For my Justice card, okay, I have a Libra, which makes a lot of sense to me, of course. Where there's a Cancer sign up here. For my Ermitaño, I have a Virgo sign. So these are, in order as the numbers on the card are given. So these are not in astrological order, right? And here they are. So there's that. The Golden Dawn system in the majors gives you a correspondence and the attribution that is, partly really very different to this whole thing here. So I think that's kind of handy to know if you are attracted to these decks, as personally. So this is a little tiny bit of a expose for how I look at my tarot practice these days. How I will go through the cards here so you can have a look at them. How I buy, which decks I will buy. Okay, what am I going to try to do in terms of my collection? I'm basically following my gut, and it brings me to these kinds of decks, to these kinds of art styles, people who are actually also artists who draw a lot. So Jupiter for the Emperor here, instead of Aries, the sign. Okay, we have a planetary correspondence here. And he's got like a interesting looking helmet on with all sorts of things going on. I feel I'm trying to find connections to culture. That is my MO in all this. I grew up with very little, if any at all, personal connection to culture, is what I'm realizing. And I have realized this myself, over the past years. It's not a new idea, but it is. I'm suddenly seeing how this is relevant, that this is why I buy tarot decks. I buy tarot decks to connect to a wider tradition in ways that will not hurt me, in ways that will not force me to think in a particular tradition, to be buried in a tradition without, feeling that limits my options. I grew up with a lot of cultural freedom, but it was also very empty. So that is why I'm drawn to these kinds of decks. And because I have lived in Europe in all sorts of places, this is so good to me. The snake being crushed, but probably not killed by the hermit. That just means everything to me. And there's this weird shape where he's got kind of like a shawl over or a drapery over his back. Oh no, that's the bag with I think that is not a bag of toys. It's a bag of geometrical shapes. Different geometrical shapes. Can you see what I'm trying to say here? There's a cube and a pyramid, or a triangular pyramid, and a pentagon in a sort of a 3D version, and so on and so forth. But I don't see what this veil here is. A translucent veil hanging on the other side behind him. It has a lot of detail. I love this. The fact that it has so much detail, and in a lot of cases, especially in the minor cards, you can just connect it to your favorite Rider-Waite image and read them, use the cards. So I suppose there's two methods really of using these kinds of cards, depending on what you want. If you just want to do a quick reading, especially for other people, that will communicate something, that will show them, a sense of their path, and that you're trying to help them understand things, whatever's going on. I'm seeing there's a bit of night sky behind this justice figure in the middle there. Looks to me like night sky or universe even. But there's decks that do more than that, and that are for study or for meditation purposes and for art's sake, Mars for the strength card. So there's the aesthetic side to this, and the sort of a personal growth side to this, and that's the wonder of tarot. There's no end. It just goes on and on, bringing these rich ancient dimensions to you, and you can use it for just to tell what your day is going to be like, and it will still work, whether it brings the whole of the Kabbalah and the whole of the occult to your doorstep or not, or whether it's just your kitchen table tarot, kind of a very basic, very practical kind of a story that you're involved in, and you have other things on your mind besides study. But I'm a nerd. I am the nerd, okay? That's why this is just so satisfying to me, So as you see, I'm doing this, in quite a slow pace. You can take in some of the details. There's little bits of what looks like alchemical symbols and angelic names references in the seat of the under the pedestal that the devil is sitting on. That looks like an angel name, which you might even be able to make out if you were an expert at that. I am not. Okay. The Jeroenbos Tower and the naked or witchy fairy. Isn't that a hat like the fairy godmothers have in the fairy tales? Well, she's upside down just as well. So a fairy godmother being a person who's supposed to protect you and so on. So that is kind of hint. There's a lot of thought. A lot of thought has gone into these cards. Moon. I love how this is drawn. The moon card, the face, the expression is beautiful, colors is beautiful. And the way that the face is drawn inside the circle leaves out a sickle, a crescent around the face like that, which is not filled in. Details, lots and lots of little details like that. Just beautiful. And there's another circle. It looks like a magical circle with flowers. So there's quite a few bits where, okay, so what is the value then of having a Pisces connection for the sun? I do not know, because I will have to do a lot more reading up And so far, I don't think I have found a lot of literature. There's books. And there's a book about the Esoterico tarot as well that I had found a link for. And it's for sale. It's not expensive at all. So that book might be actually, as it talks about this deck, it might give us the background information. I know there's Eudes Picard, who's a French astrologer from the 20th century, who has sort of worked with this system in newer times. Okay, I don't think he invented the system. Most people talk about Eliphas Levi, who was not a Jewish person in France in the 19th century. Alphonse Constant is his name. And I have tried in his works that are online to find his system, and it basically just goes back to the Kabbalah letters being associated with different cards in a slightly different order. And then the astrology comes from that. It comes from the Hebrew. As I understand it now, it seems very much as if in neither of these decks, the astrology or the decans or any of it really contributes much to the understanding of the card. There's a sun symbol here for the world. It's not that strange, I think. It's not like it's completely impossible to understand. So if I'm gonna put these to the side for a bit, I think I will just show you the aces as it is, like so, and then I will bring out the cups cards of those, because a lot of these, the keywords are different, but the imagery on the others is, a lot of it is fairly, Rider-Waite-Smith, the concepts in each of the cards. Okay, so that is, I don't necessarily think, there's other walkthroughs also on YouTube of this deck that are more complete. I'm also really just, trying to get through these cards to that other system. Okay, so whereas the whole Decan situation has everything to do with that. I talked about this in the first video, where the Ace of Cups is connected here very clearly to the first decan of Cancer, and then the 2 is, see where that is red over there? That is actually the second card of the Cups, is the middle decan, 10 to 20 degrees of Cancer, and here it is 20 to 30 degrees of Cancer. Okay, and there's a 3, and it has letters next to these signs here in this quarter part of the sky that the cups are all for. Okay, I'm just going to take the cups as an example of how the system works. Okay, we're not going through the whole walkthrough thing here. We're just going through part of the deck in order to show you as much detail as I can. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. So, King, Queen, and C is Cavaliere, so Knight. Okay, those are the attributions, and the page goes for the whole of the quarter. Those are sort of, the J is, I don't know what that is. That's the Joker, right? The page card. So it looks like the pages, and let's see, sorry about that. Here we can see that the pages 4 pages, okay, sort of rule the whole of the yearly cycle is the approach here. And the king rules the first sign of the 3 signs that make up the quarter. The queen rules the second, and the knight rules the third part of the quarter of the zodiac. Can you make that out? That's those, the K, the Q, and the C over there. That's what they refer to. And the jack, that's what the J stands for, of course. Basically, you have a queen, and that would not make sense if they were Italian, because you would have re and regina, so that would not be different. So hence the K and the Q, and the K is replaced by the C of cavaliere for the knight, because in order to really make sure that that comes across. Okay, so we have these correspondences where apparently the sort of a child stage of the deck of the court suit, I should say. In each case, the child stands for the whole of the quarter of the sky. You would almost tend to think of it as a season, right? The cups is the season of summer, starting, I think, in a zodiacal position at the beginning of Cancer. So what is that? July, right? End of June is when the sun in the Western zodiac, not in the tropical, but in the Western zodiac, the sun moves into Cancer. It is seasonal. The cups aren't the water element. The cups are the season of summer. That's what that represents, I think. And you start off your in each case, you start off your season, as it were, the end of June. Of course, the summer solstice, the 21st of June, is when the sun moves into Cancer. And you get your king, the high point after the solstice, the first half of the first third, the first decan into Cancer. Okay, so I am learning as I am doing this. I hope this is entertaining, for Pete's sake. I love that we have the 4 elements here in different cups. Air, water, and earth. And the fire cup is what's being handed to this person who's sitting there with a bored expression and going like, well, I still have an hour and a half to wait for the bus. So I'm trying to think of something here. The Queen season comes afterwards. So that is in July then. The 4, the 5, and the 6 are under the dominion of the Queen, or the not the dominion perhaps, but the auspices. I don't know words, people. I'm just trying here. Of the Leo part of the sky is what we're dealing with here. 4, 5, and 6. So cups, cards. But the thing is that it's seasonal. The cups are all seasonal, so they're not a water element. Even though there is a water element to it, obviously, in the pictures, in the imagery, very different looking cups here. I think this is beautiful. I like that one especially. It's like maybe not be very comfortable to drink from, but it looks beautiful. That one looks like it has runes on it. Very eclectic, and an old house in the distance. Because it has to do with the past, the 6 of Cups. The last card of the sign of Leo. So by that time, the sun is moving from Leo to Virgo. Is that what we've just seen? at the the end of August, sort of the last the 21st or 22nd of August is, I think, when the sun moves from Leo to Virgo. And the final three cards then are under the provision of the Knight of Cups, and we're talking about Virgo, apparently, in terms of energy. Just going into this in a little bit of detail so that you can actually make out that there's a reason for all these bits and pieces to be where they are. And if I just go on a bit, victory for the 9 and the 10. The 10 is the end of the season in each case. And so the Joker, or the Jack, I should say, is highlighted in red over here. Each time it's highlighted in red, and we're going back through the season with the Knight of Cups. There's no astrology, I think, here. Very comic book kinds of illustrations, right? The Queen, back in with Leo with Egyptian symbols. It's very, very eclectic and completely it's kind of interesting how she's turning sideways. And this one, generosity and knowledge, with the boat in the distance. And another Egyptian symbol. Okay, these are Egyptian symbols. Probably that is the king symbol, the hat right there. That looks not familiar enough with Egyptian symbology, but that looks like, is it an Isis symbol? I think so. And the urns, that one is also, I have seen this, I have done, I have got a little Egyptian tarot, that's a Los Scarabeo deck. That's the snake there with the red urn, and this one has another urn and some kind of what looks like a little amphora. There's probably a lot to say about these symbols. None of the information, if you get through the, where is it? Over here. This is the bag that I chose to put the deck in that I made. I have not used this bag for anything really, so the whole deck actually fits really snugly in there with the book, and I have put my other two decks for comparison's sake, the Esoterico and the Cabalistico Tarot, in the same bag to just to study this whole system, because geesh, it's different. And I'm glad to realize that it is kind of so that it is seasonal, really. So just to finish off here with that point, the Ace of Pentacles, we are starting in Capricorn, right? Is that Capricorn and Aquarius and Pisces? So the 21st of December is where we're at with our Ace. It's a winter deck, a winter suit. The whole of the Pentacles is about winter. So it kind of makes sense, I suppose. It helps me to realize that it is actually seasonal. That is one way of, but as I was saying, if you manage this, if you manage the Italian, it's not like super easy for me, because it's, I can sort of mostly make it out what it says, but I never studied Italian as such. I just know a few of the words, and I know how the grammar works, because like I said, my life has been moving all over the place, and I never really did anything but go to school and learn things and study things. And so I learned French and Spanish when I was in either of those countries as I grew up, as a teenager. And actually coming back to France, I had to relearn French all over again, because what I had learned as a toddler in Switzerland didn't stick in my brain afterwards. It's a very complicated life, but this is very satisfying for me to be looking at these things. Look at there's like an Egyptian, is that a staff with a thoth head on it? This dark blue thing here. I'm not really sure. Anyway, it's the beginning of the Libra season, or autumn, right? And then the other one here also has like an Egyptian type staff, yes, whatever that is, for the wands. And it starts with Aries. So yeah, so that is why we actually do have Aries first, and then the cups with starting with Cancer, because that last one of the wands season is Gemini. See, so you go from Gemini to Cancer, actually. So that's how that goes. It does not go in the zodiacal order. Another discovery I am making. The order that it goes in is from Aries through Taurus and Gemini to Cancer, Leo, Virgo, and then to Libra, and so on. And then the last one is the Pentacles one, starting with Capricorn and ending with Pisces. And you're back at the beginning. Okay, I think that is quite enough for now. And I think I have told you what I have figured out so far. I will put a couple of links in the description. There is lots more to figure out, especially about the origin of how old this system really is, how far back it goes, because I do think that the Golden Dawn / Rider-Waite system that we're using is a bit of a... there's nothing wrong with it. It hinges together really well. It works. I'm completely happy to use my Rider-Waite, well, not on a daily basis maybe, but often. And it is very comforting to use Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork. I love that, and I'm not against it in any way. But I do think it is like the whole approach to tarot through that system, through the Golden Dawn and RWS systems, is like a crystallized one particular perspective of the tarot. And this is different. And if people want to buy these decks, then you're thrown off course. And I want us to be able to, use whatever system we want, and to, if that's at all possible, to connect with decks as we like. This is a fascinating little deck, the Esoterico, and it has been helpful, even though the system here isn't exactly the same as the Delle Stelle system. It gives just a little bit of background information. I have found information about how why this is the way it is, a bit more in the Spanish Tarot Tube community. I will do a separate video on that, okay? Soon-ish, probably in a couple of weeks or so, because there's a different culture, and there's a reason why these kinds of decks are equally fascinating and sort of attractive and different and interesting, and why that is. We're fascinated for a reason. So there. I think that's enough. That's 40 minutes again. Thank you so much for watching, you people. I'm really grateful to be out here again and to be sharing in the things. So thank you, and see you next time. Bye bye.